No. No. Greetings, folks. I'm Larry Ridgway. This week is a special week. A week with two guests. A special week indeed. I'm joined by John Fashcroft here all the time. How you doing?
Hey, doing well. Hope everybody's doing well tonight.
Hey, it's America's biggest Israel supporter. Am I right? John Fashcroft, folks. That debate happened. It's
Zio Fashcroft over here.
It's just such a silly thing. But and we're also joined by Super Lutheran. We have him on, folks. How are you doing?
Well, with all the prep and everything that y'all were talking about on the last episode and you asking me to come on, angry. I think that's the best approximate word for it.
Yeah, I was John, actually this is funny. I was messaging him about this, and the one day I messaged him like, yeah, it's such and such, and he's like, yeah, I'm doing this thing right now, like this project I'm working on. I won't say what. And I say, I had sent this article that we're going to go over. I didn't tell you about the play, John. And I'm like, oh, sorry to ruin your day. And he's like, oh my. That was the response that we got at that point in time. But
I'm always down to have my day ruined, man. I love getting my days ruined because it keeps things interesting.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, everything's going well. I don't know, it's working out, making good progress on these things that I'm supposed to be working on, and then I get this like giant piece of trash put on my table when I go to lunch. What is this? This is filth. And filth indeed it is. Maybe we could even start there so we can get ultra disgusted, or would you guys want to start with the Steven Anderson stuff?
Oh man, you want me to blow my Steven Anderson wad?
Yeah, we can do that quick. I want to tell you something really funny. So before you talk about Steven Anderson, there's a guy that goes to his church, Faith and Word Baptist Church. His name is Chris Segura. He preaches sermons there. There's a few videos here I'm going to pull up as you're talking and whatnot. And I was listening to it was like a roast of the NIFB with Isaac Anderson, Steven Anderson, one of his sons, the one that is a racist and like he's an open Nazi, folks. And I say that with I'm not kidding. Like for real. He talks about it on on Twitter. I guess he has like some sort of tattoo on his chest too. I didn't see that. But he's on there talking, and it's in like the first few minutes of this. I'll pull the video up where he says this. I actually have it here, but I don't know how to video through OBS unless I pull the video up and do it through a window capture. So I can't do it, but I know where it's at either way. This guy though, he has like 8 children. His first 4 kids, Super Lutheran. You want to take a guess at what their names are?
Yeah. So George Floyd and Frank, Martin Luther King Jr. and George Foreman the 8th.
No, you're actually closer than you think though, because George Foreman had a similar naming convention that this man has. So this guy's first 4 children, he has 3 sons, I guess. Their names are Chris Segura, and Chris Segura. And he has
Like, why not, right? Why not gift that name to other people, right?
And then he has his 4th child's name, it's a girl. Her name is Christina Segura. And then, but
That's so fucked up. One of those kids is like Chris Segura the third, and his dad's name is not Chris.
But here's where you think that's unhinged. This is where we really go off the rails. He has a child. He named his child. His next 2 children. His next kid's name is Steven Anderson Segura.
Oh, no.
I swear.
No.
Yeah, and then he has a girl named Susanna Anderson Segura. That's Steven Anderson's wife's name.
That
And
oh my gosh, that's like the worst form of butthole licking that
So,
you can do in ministry. I name my kids after you. Could you ordain me, please?
well, then, dude, and then I'm gonna play a clip of something he said in one of these videos where he's like, Steven Anderson, he is like Job, the greatest man alive. It's
He yelled, and I
so,
got these funny feelings.
can I ask a question? Like, maybe I missed this, maybe I was zoned out. Where does the Segura come from?
That's it's just this guy's last name. His name is Chris Segura.
Oh, okay, never mind. I'm with you. I was
Yeah.
confused. I was thinking we were talking about Steven Anderson's kids. We're still talking about the Chris guy. Okay.
No,
I'm back up to speed.
no, this is like a Steven Anderson sycophant in his church that named his
Okay,
kids.
yeah,
He's
yeah.
like, yeah, my first 4 children are named Chris Segura, but then I got a child. But then I guess there's another one that's named just like not Steven Anderson Segura. I guess it's just Steven Segura.
Because, if it's worth doing once, you got to do it again, right?
Yeah, but I mean that's like in a church that's like a weird form of idolatry there, and he's like this dude like worships him. He's up there saying he's like, oh, he's the greatest man alive today. One of these guys said that he was like that Anderson like suffered so they could be saved.
Oh.
Yeah, it's nuts, dude. It's in that roast video. They have like a clip for it, and Anderson's son is like, "Yeah, I mean, I don't know what they mean by that. Like, what he suffered like outside in the heat, like soul winning. Like, what are you talking about?"
Dude, Anderson is like the most overrated pastor in America. And trust me, I'm sure there's plenty of room for people to overrate me. But if your winning formula that you're just going to do for X amount of years is to jump up and down and scream and tell people read the King James only, and like here is why we hate Rome, hate Calvinists, hate X, Y, and Z thing. Like you're not providing me any substance whatsoever.
Yeah, and
And then
that's
this go ahead.
I'm sorry to interrupt you there, but and that's like the whole thing. You mentioned about like you said like, oh, some people might call you overrated, like an overrated pastor, but it's like you are talking about substance. That's like the focus of a sermon that you would preach. Something that like Anderson and these guys do, like, and there are clips that you can find of them like talking about it. And it's actually one of the things that they talk about whenever they're promoting themselves most is like red hot you're sick and tired of like boring preaching. And it's like, yeah, but it's like you were saying, you like forego all of the substance for all of the flash and like stuff like that. But yeah, I interrupted you.
Well, in
You're
my
pissing on a
experience,
wall, libtard. Can you even handle this?
What were you gonna say, John?
well, my bad. I didn't mean to jump all over you, Super. And I was just gonna say, in my experience here in my journey through Christianity these past few years, I have learned, in my personal opinion, if a priest or a preacher is driven more by ideology than theology, then they're probably a bad apple.
I don't even know that you could say that he's like driven by ideology though. I think he's driven more by like like he I think he genuinely, after like listening to some of his responses to people like criticizing him after all this stuff came out, I think he's driven more by people. He just wants to have people who are dumber than him like following him and like listening to what he has to say.
Well,
Well,
just
there's
all I've go ahead, Super. My bad.
there's that, and then there's a bit that you got to commit to, right? If you're gonna have this cult of personality dynamic
Yeah,
where you're known for X, Y, or Z thing, then you have to stick with that,
I
and
think
that's
that.
kinda all you're gonna be.
Yeah, I think that's actually more of what I was trying to say than ideology. Like his thing, he has a stick, right? like he's a fire and brimstone kind of screamy, yelly preacher. And all I've ever really seen from Steven Anderson, I'll be honest, is like his March to Zion Holocaust shit and his like borderline what are the guys that God hates fag people?
Westboro Baptist Church.
Yeah, and his borderline Westboro Baptist Church. That's all I've ever really seen from Steven Anderson, to be fair. So
He's just
I
like,
know he's real big on race mixing. He like yeah. all that.
well, actually, the thing
He's
is,
pro race mixing.
well, it's funny you say that, John, because another thing that's come out in these interviews, and I guess that a number of it's been said by some people to me in a dream and in listening to some of these things, that a number of the colored persuasion in his congregation have left since it came out, like in his house, him and his wife were like, yeah, that may go on at the church, but like none of our children, you know what I mean? People are like pressed about that, but it's like that's like a reasonable thing, you know, you want your grandchildren to like look like you and shit.
Yeah, about the interviews, real quick, can I just say something about these kids in the interviews they did?
Yeah.
First off, I have no problem believing them, and I have no problem saying that they didn't deserve to be beaten by their parents until they went onto this particular YouTube channel to have their interviews done.
Yeah,
Like, serious.
you could have picked a better YouTube. You could have picked a better you know who actually Super Lutheran. Do you know what? That's actually a great point. Do you know who the one Anderson kid reached out to? I was listening to his podcast yesterday, and he mentioned it.
Okay, who was it?
James White.
He could have gone to James White. He could have gone to, look, you want yellow journalism, sensationalism? Go to J.D. Hall over at Protestia, formerly known as Pulpit and Pen. And sure, he has his own domestic abuse scandal and stuff like that. You could have gone to anybody. But instead, you went to the guy who's going to turn around a year or so from now and just go, listen, pumpkin, you can say that I'm a groomer, but I only groom the children. I never beat them.
Yeah, and that, you know, that's another thing that some of these guys like Jason Robinson and these other people who were involved in like the NIFB were like talking about after the fact. They were like that was one of the things they mentioned about how you're giving non-believers like the ability to speak ill on Christianity. They worded it different.
They're gonna do that anyway. Non-believers are always gonna do that. They just will. Christ says the world is gonna hate you. Fine. But when it comes to something like this, you handle this in-house and you go to somebody with a ministry that is another believer. You don't go to somebody that is a dude in makeup who likes to like talk about how I infiltrated a MAGA rally in a dress.
Now,
You don't do that.
for conversation purposes, because I mean I agree with you, but for conversation purposes, what should they do if they were in like a cult? Because I mean, after listening to a number of these people's like sermons after the fact, that dude naming his children after Steven Anderson and stuff like that, people getting like some of the things they toss folks out of the church for, it's not all just because people are like homos and like weird, like other weirdos and stuff like that. They throw like average, like just Christians out of the church too. Like I actually would say that it is like kind of cultish. You know, it's like the new independent fundamental Baptists, right? But Steven Anderson does operate or was operating as like a pope type figure.
Which is so ironic because he hates them papists, right?
Yeah.
There's plenty of Christians that aren't in cults. You don't have to go to somebody who's in like the opposite cult to your own to get your message out.
I'm trying to find a good Christian cult.
I don't even know what to say to that, John. Like
Can I get one good cult, please?
Yeah, just one decent, non-sexually debased Christian cult.
it's like, you know, I threw my lot in with this group of Star Trek enjoyers in the mid-90s, but then they got all weird and wanted to talk about cutting off their genitals. They caught a rod in the back of Hale Bob's Comet. Ever since then, since T and Doe left this planet, there's just been nothing worth following. Am I right, folks?
Just a void.
Marshall Applewhite and Bonnie Nettles. For those of you who don't care, I mean, who do care. But yeah, so you were you wanted to talk briefly. Because I'm pulling these videos up and I don't want to like mess up your flow of things about like some of the things he was saying, because you listen to some of these sermons and you will be able to talk about it in like a much different way than someone with the brain of John and I would. Like his biblical justifications for his things. Me and John will be like, that doesn't sound that doesn't sound right, moron. Like,
yeah, so he comes out with this sermon, and as I was like, I saw that this thing that interviewed Steven Anderson's kids also had a video about Steven Anderson preaching a sermon on disciplining one's children. And with this, Anderson's like justification for it was first to say, my children deserve to die, because there's a Bible verse about what to do with a rebellious son, and you kill them. You take them in front of the elders of Israel and you say, well, this kid's a drunkard, he's a piece of crap, and he cursed his father and mother, so everybody out in the town takes that kid and frickin' stones him to death. Now, where he could have gone with this is said, this is what the law says. But St. Peter in Acts 15 says, this is a burden that neither we nor our forefathers have been able to bear. We're under grace now. I forgive my children for the way they've sinned against me. He could have said that, right? He could have been magnanimous and said, listen, I believe that they slandered me. I don't know what got into my kids' heads, but I'll tell you what, I forgive them, and let's move on as a church. But instead, no. He harps on this law as though the law wasn't fulfilled and says, nope, the principle of the law is these kids got to die.
yeah, and you know what?
And we got to pray against it, a curse from God.
It almost sounds like what he's saying, talking about like the law and like how they used to deal with kids like this that would act, would dishonor their parents and stuff. How they'd stone them. It's like he's like, these kids should be grateful that I'm being so merciful that I actually don't just kill them. Do you know what I mean? It's like insane.
And so he moves on from that to justifying, right? Because he claims that his kids speaking against him was a form of dishonoring him, because you're supposed to honor your father and your mother. And that's what he named the title of his sermon or rant or whatever. Honor your father and mother. By the way, that's not a sermon. Like when you preach, you're supposed to preach the gospel. You're supposed to preach law and gospel. Anything that isn't that, it gets close to just having a Bible study from a pulpit. But I digress. Steven Anderson attempts to do theology regarding familial relations, some sort of weird systematic theology. And he moves on from that to saying, they've dishonored me by going against me and talking about this stuff. Fine, you can say that. And then he says, well, listen, here's where Solomon says in Proverbs, if whoever spares the rod hates his own son. So it's a rod. Well, okay. Well, how does God discipline people? And he goes into the prophets saying, well, God talks about the scourge on people. He talks about this scourge, and Jesus makes a whip of cords.
Does a scourge include like the nine tails thing?
Yeah.
It's like all right, Stephen. Like,
so he's like hinting at that. Like he picked Hable, an electric cord, because that was the closest analog to an Old Testament scourge that he could pick up. So he's going Old Testament on his kids' asses.
Well,
and then
he
says,
didn't pick up an analog for a rod, huh?
a lead pipe.
Well, no, I mean, he used a rod. It was a riding crop for his wife, but, that's neither here nor there.
Hey, man, what happens between two consenting adults in the bedroom ain't no business of my son's and ain't no business of yours. Am I
Don't
right?
be worried about when I beat my wife with my rod, all right?
In the bedroom. What a sicko.
Sorry,
So,
Super. I'll
no,
stop.
it's all right. So he goes into this, like, trying to form this systematic theology, doing a word study and claiming it's never symbolic. This is a literal scourge, a literal rod. And he cites all these prophets where God talks about disciplining Israel with the rod of discipline or the scourge of it, speaking symbolically, because guess what? God did not come down from heaven and whoop everybody's behind with a scourge. The prophets are speaking symbolically, and in a book of wisdom, like Proverbs, maybe you're supposed to understand that just a little bit more symbolically. And then he says, well, listen, anybody that sees that video, they're getting involved in my children's sin, and they need to be cursed. And so he gets on his knees and like prays a curse on everybody that ever listened to the video or joined in on that sin or ever cursed their parents, blah, 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 blah. And he says, okay, now somebody's going to say, well, St. Paul says, fathers don't provoke your children to wrath. And he didn't have an answer for it, but he just got like angry and shouted and stuff. Like, listen, when St. Paul says, don't provoke your children to wrath, what does he mean? Well, see, a Lutheran would tell you that connects down to the fourth commandment, honor your father and your mother, and there's a few mirror commandments there. Honor your father and mother. Well, for fathers and mothers, that means be honorable, because if you don't, you are tempting your child to sin. You're tempting your children to dishonor you. So that's a mirror commandment to the fourth commandment. Don't go out there and be so overly harsh with your children or so negligent, either one. Apparently, the Anderson family did both at different times, that they will be tempted to dishonor you. Anderson should have gotten there in the pulpit and repented that he had been dishonorable to his children, that he had provoked them to wrath, that he had neglected them and been so harsh with them that this is the corner that they were backed into. And he could say that they sinned. I believe that they sinned. They went to the absolute worst people in the world to go get their message out, right?
Yeah. And it was just for and actually the one specifically said it was because he had a large reach.
Yeah, that's such, dude, that's bullshit.
Yeah,
There are
it's
so many people with a bunch of reach. You don't go to the freak, okay?
and it's not like and it's also like being his son, that he garners like a lot of attention, like media attention. So like you coming out with this, it's going to get picked up and talked about by somebody. I didn't notice it until like 2 weeks after it happened though.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You don't do this if you're gonna do that. So fine, his kids sinned, and they were clearly trying to get a story out when this is all stuff that Anderson said, "Don't come to me with your problems." Which, okay, that's not very pastoral of you. And he says, if your life is in danger or they're getting violent or something like that, go to the cops, go to the cops. Well, okay, presumably he told his kids something like that. Why didn't they go to the cops if they really thought these kids were in imminent danger? Apparently, the laws in Arizona say you can have somebody just committed to a mental hospital for 72 hours, because that happened to Steven Anderson. His kids, if they were really that desperate, could have had Anderson committed, and his wife went to the cops about and said, listen, this was because we weren't safe reporting this to you while they were in the house, because we think they're mentally unstable, they're emotionally unstable. This is what they've been doing to us. Here's all the proof. Fine. Maybe they didn't honor their dad with that. But homie, you still sinned. Yes, you still mistreated your children horribly, and now they feel like there's no other option. So what else are they gonna do? Like, okay, dork. Yeah, am I gonna agree that somebody should just be able to have you committed to a mental hospital? No, I don't like that. But um, the other thing is like he cursed, literally prayed curses down and imprecatory prayers down on anybody that saw this stuff. Well, okay, Anderson, here I want you to put on your Luther hat, and I know you probably have some really unkind words to say about Luther and people that like him, like me. Um, I'm not violating the eighth commandment. Do not bear false witness. Don't be a rumor monger. All that stuff. When the sin is public, you can say all this crap is nobody's business, right? But your kids made it public. You made it public. You verified a whole bunch of this stuff. So now it's out there for everybody to see. And if I'm going to give Christians advice on how do you handle this situation, okay, we're going to talk about it publicly. And it is no sin to learn what it is that's going on so you know what you're talking about. And it's not a sin to see this stuff because guess what? You took it out of privacy. And your kids. It's no longer private. This is a public matter. I shouldn't have to. That's what pisses me off. You should have treated your kids better. I shouldn't have to do any of this.
And they shouldn't have to fold French-made lingerie. Am I right?
Well, let's not go judging the whole French maid lingerie thing.
Well, they're like, we're finding all these weird sex outfits in the laundry when we're doing laundry when we're like 8 or 9 years old, and it's like, yikes! His kid found anal beads.
That one, could they at least have rinsed off the anal beads first before their kids discovered it?
How about you just not be a degenerate? I mean, why don't you just have sex like a normal person? Like, what
that's
the
the thing.
fuck?
I was listening to him say that, and I'm thinking, how did these kids know these were anal beads? Because
Yeah.
presumably they were very protected, which means these things, these beads that they saw smelled like poo poo, and they must have made that connection of, oh, this went in somebody's butthole.
Yeah, or you know what? Right before he mentioned that, actually, he's like, John Anderson said that he's like, my parents were always very open about like their sexual relationships and stuff. So maybe they had like talked about this stuff. But he would say that they would like get sent outside and then they would go in there and have their sexcapades in the bedroom and whatnot, and or like they would just they would just put us to sleep and then they'd go into the next room and all sorts of debauchery,
I honestly hope it's just their kids having an unfortunate overhearing thing when he talks about them being open about their sex life, because it would be really, really sad if like Steven Anderson and his sons, they go outside together to pisseth on the wall, like you do, raise them up like a good dad. And then he's like, sons, today we're going to talk about some special stuff that your mom and I do, and I want you to never talk about this, but let me learn you the facts of life, son, about anal beads.
Yeah, the birds and the beads. Am I right?
Ugh.
Show title right there, folks. Birds and the beads. But hey, Ridgeway Democrat for $1 says French-made lingerie is the best quality. Okay, the French. We're talking about like a French maid, like a house cleaner.
Like that's what I was when I heard that. That's what I thought it was. Is like, listen, if you get your wife in a French maid outfit and your kids see it, you just say, well, your mama just likes having some cleaning uniforms.
Yeah, a real whorish cleaning uniform. Just trying to come up with a word there. It's a real harlot's uniform your mom's wearing. Hey, John,
At least you got the alibi, right?
my wicked wife.
Yeah.
Did you hear that story, Super Lutheran?
Oh man, screaming, and he talked about my wicked daughter.
My
At
wicked
Starbucks.
daughter.
I want to find where that Starbucks was, and I want to ask them for the security camera footage.
Well, it was in South Carolina, and that escape story was so good. John McCain's tumor's like, this is Pastor Anderson? What the fuck? Yes. Yes. Within the last month, like 4 of his adult children came out and said that he like beat the shit out of his wife. And on the spousal corporal punishment, I've heard a number of these NIFB guys say this repeatedly. Isaac Anderson gave a pretty good reply to it, but I don't know as well as you would. What's these guys have been saying, hey, the Bible's pretty silent on whether or not you should beat your wife.
Scripture tells husbands, do not be harsh with your wife.
And it says love them like Jesus loved the church.
And in addition to that, St.
Do
Peter
benevolence.
St. Peter says you need to treat your wife with honor as a fellow heir with you in salvation. So, are you honoring your wife if you beat the shit out of her?
With an electrical cord?
With an electrical cord. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, guys, fellas, people listening to this, it's hard. It is really hard to be a parent, to be a dad. And I know that there are guys with wives that are difficult sometimes, right? You handle that like an adult.
Yeah, you turn the thermostat back up to 70. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, instead of beating her with that wire.
You want it to be cold in here? You sleep outside. You don't make her sleep out in the porch.
You'll be cold from the loss of blood, woman.
Like, I've had to counsel people before on this. Like, a husband is king of his castle. You are El Jefe. You are in charge, right? Now, do you want them to like you being in charge? Do you want to be the undisputed ruler? Because again, according to Scripture, it's true, 100% true. If you tell your wife to jump, she'd better ask you how high on the way up. You are the undisputed authority. But she's gonna have rebellious moments. And how do you treat her in those moments is going to make all the difference. Because if you just beat your family into submission, you are king, sure, but you're king over a pile of poop.
She better fear me instead of love me.
Yeah, that's no way for you to live. That's no way for your kids to live. Everybody's going to be miserable. That sucks, and you did that. You did that because you decided to hate on your wife for one reason or another. Like, be an adult, guys.
I really heard and then I went down the rabbit hole and was listening to a bunch of other people talk about this. And one of the guys that was on the Marching to Zion documentary, he holds to replacement theology. Like, he doesn't believe that Jews are the chosen people. But he made a point that he separated from Anderson like a couple years ago over like he thought it was like shameless self-promotion and stuff like that. And he made the point that, and I mean, you'll know better on this. He's like, yeah, this is really not Anderson is a continuation of a problem that's been going on in the Baptist community since the old IFB with Jack Hyles. He's like, this is a Jack Hyles problem because Anderson idolizes Jack Hyles, where he's like the only person that he hasn't because according to this dude, he's like, Anderson and the new IFB have said that, if you're not Jack Hyles or in the new IFB, you're burning in hell. It's like, yeah, John Calvin, he's in hell. All these, Martin Luther in hell. The Catholic Church in hell. But, not Jack Hyles. But then he started talking about Hyles life and how he was like seeing his secretary cheating on his wife for years and whatnot. And I guess he had like a real degenerate son. And there's like he was talking about like the parallels between the two. I don't know if you knew anything about Hiles or not. I only listened to one of his sermons before where he's talking about, it's called the Flames of, I think it's called the Flames of Hell.
Jack Hiles was the Steven Anderson of his day. Like, he did a bunch of the Fundy movement.
The Halls of Hell.
Yeah. It was like 89 or 1990 when he got accused of all this stuff, and then in the early 90s, after all these accusations of having affairs with his secretary and like stealing money from the church, there was also this accusation that one of his deacons had been molesting a 7-year-old girl.
This was in the Hiles time?
Yeah, Jack Hiles is his whole thing. Like, there were all these like child molestation scandals that came out by the early 90s, and the more that happened, the more like they kind of got this culty vibe coming out of them because they did the siege mentality bit. So
he didn't even mention that. This guy didn't even mention any of that.
Right?
Yeah, this was all out by 1993, and like there was a documentary about it called "Praying from the Pulpit," like a new series on it.
Shoot, I'll have to check that out. And obviously, they did praying like Preying.
Yeah, I'll send you a link to the Wikipedia article on it. But yeah, that was one of the things when I was actually starting to look into Fundy Baptist stuff before I became a Lutheran, and the more you hear about it, the more it's just like I can't.
Well, one thing I want to well, what did you think about that? Knowing what you know about Hiles, because you clearly, I mean, you know more about him than I do. You think, and knowing what you know about this Anderson scandal, him being like the only Baptist preacher that he hasn't really criticized, do you think there's anything to that? This maybe being like a continuation of that? Because I think, I don't know. Also, it's just like the sinful nature of man in general, like everybody dead in sin. It's just like it's just in the spotlight because he's in the same position as Hiles was.
Yeah, it's obviously a problem that happens with every single denomination, but some are more susceptible to it than others. So, like, everybody knows about the Roman Catholic child molesting scandals, and a bunch of that stuff has come out over the past 30 some odd years, right?
Yeah.
So, but with Rome, it was this kind of systematic, institutionalized thing where if somebody wanted to be a chomo, they could get away with it. And they knew that if they got hooked up with the Roman Catholic Church and went through seminary and stuff, they knew that they wanted to handle all their problems in-house. So what do you know? A big fat infestation of chomos.
Yeah, they could just move them from parish to parish as well.
Like the Amish have a massive child abuse problem and rape problem, in part because, like, look, these people don't have social media. They don't have easy access to cops for their kids to get help. So it's just kind of rampant. It's just there. Like the Amish it is an industrial sized sexual abuse machine.
Fuck, man, I didn't even know that.
A lot less so when you get to like the Mennonite side of things, but with the Amish, it's a messed up community. When you get to Fundies, fundamentalist Baptists, what happens on their end is their ministers have to be the big man in the room. That's how they've preached since before Jack Hiles, right? Ever since the battle for the Bible in the early 20th century, when the fundamentals came out, arguing around the same time as the Scopes monkey trial, they wanted to argue as passionately as possible for everything, and that became an acceptable standard for a ton of them. But when you're the big man in the room, there's going to be some people that go, "Oh, he's the big man in the room. I guess we're going to listen to everything he says." And if you're charismatic, and if you're snazzy enough and you do it right, people say, "Oh man, that's a guy who tells it like it is." And the next thing you know, you're the pope of your individual congregation, and you don't tolerate anybody questioning you. Again, are there good fundy pastors? I'm sure. I assume some of them are good people, but that is a temptation that comes along with that presentation. And recently, the Lutherans, with the large catechism controversy that came out with the LCMS, it seems like those people are trying to seek permission to engage in sex abuse scandals. Like, Lutherans will wait until their CTCR document comes out, and then they can go do screwed up stuff. So everybody's got a lot of the same problems, but it presents different with every denomination, you know?
Yeah, that makes sense. Let me pull this. Hey, you mentioned you guys. Let me play a couple of these videos. So, Super Lutheran, you mentioned this guy that Steven Anderson should have gotten up behind the pulpit and repented. Well, let's play the people here a little bit of what he did instead. Where,
Yes, sir.
hey, Steven Anderson, are you going to apologize?
Hell will freeze over before I apologize to any of these 4 wicked children of mine that are saying these things about me. Hell will freeze over before I apologize to any of them. I would rather die, I would rather be put in prison than to kowtow and be terrorized by a bunch of rebellious punks. I'm not going to apologize for being a man of God. I'm not going to apologize for following the Bible. I'm not going to apologize for being a great and loving parent. If you don't like it, get out.
Dude, it's just like so unhinged. It's like Super Lutheran. Right before we got on here, he's like, I'm not going to apologize for being a man of God. It's like nobody is talking shit on you for being a Christian, Steven. Like, nobody.
He's kind of like defining in that message, right? That's the one that I was listening to from that sermon. Like, he's kind of defining being a man of God as including the way he treated his kids. So, like, if you want to be a good, godly Christian father and husband, just like Steven Anderson, well, go get that electrical cable, go get the brewer's yeast and the oats, because that's how a godly father and husband does things. And you need to repent if you're not hitting your kids enough. That's Steven Anderson's implied message here.
All right, I think this. Oh, here's the Chris.
Last time I saw him, he had like a
Here's some Chris Segura stuff. So this is the guy that named his kid after Steven Anderson. And this guy, Isaac Anderson, is one of Steven Anderson's
kids. Chris Segura, like his face.
This is the one that is like just an out in the open like racist.
Tactical vest with his sunglasses indoors. Half the time he's wearing like fingerless gloves, which I thought fingerless gloves were cool too when I was like 12. Chris Segura's like, I think he's like over the age of 45 and hasn't figured out that wearing sunglasses indoor is not cool.
This guy behind the pulpit here, by the way, he's like trying to channel, like he's trying to like mix Steven Anderson with like Huey Long's drunken pointing, and like you ever watch a Huey Long speech? He looks very unstable on his feet. I'll play one then. Well, yeah, we're definitely gonna play one. It's short. He's like, how many men ever been to a barbecue? He might have been hammered.
Last time I saw him, he had like a tablet strapped to the back of his hand. The only reason I'm talking crap about him is on Sunday, he once again got busted on another recording. These guys just can't stop. He spent about half an hour. He spent about half an hour talking crap. I really don't want to fight a smaller guy who's older than.
He wanted to fight him, but here I want him to say about his naming his kids.
So, because he obviously, I don't think he actually wanted to fight, because otherwise he could have just texted me. He also knows where I live. He has at least 2, possibly 3 of his kids. I know he has a Steven Anderson Segura and a Jujana Anderson Segura. I'm pretty sure there's 2 Steven Anderson Seguras, though, but don't quote me on that. So he has multiple of his kids named Steven Anderson Segura.
How does he distinguish between the two Stevens?
Well, I don't really know. His first 4 kids are named Chris Segura, so like I don't know what he does.
Oh, that's funny. That's like George Foreman.
His first 4 kids. Like, dude, what in the fuck is wrong with you?
Okay.
Yeah, it's like Chris. Then there's Christina, and then I think there's one of his kids that's named just Steven something Segura, not Steven Anderson. Then there's the Steven Anderson and the Jujana Anderson. All I know is he has at least 1 Steven Anderson Segura and 1 Jujana Anderson Segura, which is super weird. I remember when he like proudly told my parents, "Yeah, his name's Steven Anderson Segura." They're like, "Oh, that's very nice, brother Chris."
They were like, "Dude, this guy's fucking weird freak."
This guy's this Segura dude reminds me of a joke. Larry, what's the difference between a Baptist and a Lutheran?
What's that?
Lutherans park in front of the bar.
So he's just, I don't all right, I don't get it.
Just the whole like all the NIFB, they're all really anti-alcohol, but that dude looks like he's got some bourbon in that coffee.
Oh, all right. I thought you were doing more than just calling them liars.
No.
No.
But I am calling them liars. If they're going to be acting they're drunk, I'm going to be saying, it looks like a duck, quacks like a duck, but it's an IFB pastor, and maybe he's been drinking.
Man, I want to find that clip of I was telling you about where he's like, he's the greatest man in the world. He's like,
Did you say he said he was like Job?
Yeah, he's like Job, the greatest man alive, brother. Yeah, while I look for that, I'll play there's another one. Then he did this thing about my trip to the nut house, and you could tell by the way he's telling the story, there's just stuff that was going on in the nut house they wouldn't have allowed. So
this term is not.
Steven Anderson is literally insane. Okay, so what's this? This should be good.
Let me just say this right now. This sermon is not for the persecutors. And I'm sure they're listening because they listen to every single sermon that I preach. Every idiot who persecutes me listens to every sermon that I preach. They're sick weirdos who can't stop listening to my preaching.
No, I want to see the one where he's talking about, I don't want to babysit a bunch of retards and morons. Yeah, this one.
You know, you got a bunch of guys today saying, oh man, we're constantly being accused of rape by feminists. Well, here's the thing. Quit fornicating with feminists. Quit fornicating, period. And then you can't get accused of rape except by retards like Tommy McMurtry and Dave Berzins and Jason Robinson. They're the only morons that will ever accuse you of that.
No one accused him of rape. It's like, dude, what?
No, that just makes me wonder, what if somebody did? That just hasn't come out yet. What's going on that Mr. Anderson?
All right, so I'm not you heard that too, right? You guys both heard that. Like, is he admitting to like fucking, I mean, someone's coming out and going to call him of rape? He's like, no one's going to accuse you of rape because all these people, Berzins and Robinson, he's had an issue with McMurtry for a while, I guess, but Berzins and Robinson just like disassociated themselves from him as a result of all of this. So it's like they wouldn't have said anything bad about you 2 months ago. Berzins was your friend for 20 years. I listened to his sermon where he was like, where he separated from the NIFB. He was very upset about it. It's like, if they didn't say anything bad about you before, and you're saying that they are accusing someone of rape now, who is that? Here, we'll play it again.
You got a bunch of guys today saying, oh man, we're constantly being accused of rape by feminists. Well, here's the thing. Quit fornicating with feminists. Quit fornicating, period. And then you can't get accused of rape except by retards like Tommy McMurtry and Dave Berzins and Jason Robinson. They're the only morons that will ever accuse you of that.
Dude, well, I mean, John, what are you hearing? Like what?
Yeah, it sounds like what they call that, a little in before.
Yeah.
A little in before here.
Well-
this McMurtry guy, did he like send an internal letter like, Steven Anderson raped me?
Well, you know
What's
what?
he saying there? Like the retards accuse me of rape. Like, what did you do to Burzins and Robinson and McMurtry?
Well-
Are you raping retards?
Well, you know what? Actually, there's a video on here where he's talking about you can't. It says it's impossible to rape your wife, idiots.
I
do not
Is Steven Anderson entering his Jesse Lee Peterson arc?
I mean, we're about to. Here it is, dude. Steven Anderson goes crazy, tells rape victim to shut up.
Support or condone marital rape in any form.
Oh, you know, I got raped 25 years ago. Shut your mouth. Because you know what? You should have been screaming.
Dude, I mean, oh, shut your mouth.
What are
Shut
you
your
fucking
mouth.
crying about?
Because you know what? You should have been screaming and yelling the day it happened. That's what the Bible says. And if you weren't screaming and yelling the day that it happened, then shut up. But you bring out these false accusations and you bring out this crap years later, it's impossible for people to defend themselves against. And just to be clear, I've never been accused of raping anyone because I've been accused of everything else under the sun. But be clear, I've never been accused of raping anyone because I've been accused of everything else under the sun, but that's not one of them.
All right, hold on. I have to do something really quick.
Accused of raping.
All right, you guys are gonna love it.
I've never. I've never been accused of raping anyone because I've been accused of everything else under the sun, but that's not one of them.
Hold on, I think I may have it.
I've never been accused of raping anyone because I've been accused of everything else under the sun.
I don't know if you guys heard that or not.
And just to be clear, I've never been accused of raping anyone because I've been accused of everything else under the sun.
All right, sick. That's now a drop on the show, folks. I've never been accused.
And just to be clear, I've never been accused of raping anyone.
Got him. Woo!
But that's not one of them. Because I've only had sex with my wife, and it's impossible to rape your wife, idiots out there online.
Why did he have to add that? Why he had to add that, just that little bit of thing, like, listen, I've only had sex with my wife and it's impossible to rape my wife. Oh, are you saying that somebody would accuse you of raping your wife?
Well, remember how his kids were like, John came out and was like, my mom fucking hates him, and she wanted to divorce him and like take the kids and have him like put in jail for domestic abuse. So maybe this isn't in before with like his wife, because, and I also think that this may be either right before or right after his son came out and was like, yeah, my dad's into BDSM.
Yeah. This particular point that you've paused at, he kind of looks like a ventriloquist dummy.
He does. Night of the Living Dummy. This is a Goosebumps novel.
It's perfect for October.
It is. I want to, we started talking over that though. Let's hear what he has to say. Just,
I've only had sex with my wife, and it's impossible to rape your wife, idiots out there online. You can't rape your wife. That's not even possible because she belongs to you. Amen?
Amrin, boy.
Anybody who didn't say amen is suspect.
I mean, like, so it's like, Steve, if your wife was really sick and you had a gun and you like demanded sex from her and she's like, you know, 4th stage on her deathbed, and like she didn't want to because she just didn't feel good, but you like did it anyway. Like, what is that, Steve? It's impossible. You can't do it.
You know what I think he's saying? He's saying, yeah, best possible construction. If you tried, God would stop you. You're about to roofie your wife, right? You got the little pill out there. You're putting it in her cocktail while she's getting ready. And she comes out of the shower and you're like, here, honey, here's a drink. And then just the glass shatters. I think that's what Steven Anderson means. Oh, your wife's too sick or she's asleep in something. You want to get some? Well, can't get it up.
Dude, then where the I will burn it all down, the qualify, is this it? They talk about him being qualified. You're a loser. Shoot. Oh, here she's crying. But my mom was very racist.
Well, what are you trying to do? Have a redemption arc for your parents? Come on.
Yeah, it's like
mixed messaging.
Hey, take it easy. it's like we're out here we're shit talking these people right now. I gotta find it. I have to find the he's the greatest man alive. It's in the my bad, guys. Beating your wife with an electrical cord is not spousal discipline. Spousal discipline isn't even a thing. We were talking about that last week. We were like, yeah, it's basically just domestic abuse. Dirty Donnie. Go ahead.
I've always wondered, like, for the guys out there that do say that they should be able to hit their wife or all that kind of stuff, like, what's the line for you? Obviously, they're going to say, "Well, killing her. I can't kill her." I'm sure half of them would say you think you should be able to kill her for like honor killing reasons. But what's the line? How much discipline is too much discipline? When's it appropriate? Inappropriate? Because Steven Anderson justified hitting his kids, but then all of his kids said that he made them wear long sleeve shirts, made them hide it, made them cover it up. If you're so confident that this is a biblical practice, Mr. Anderson, why did you have your kids wear long sleeve shirts everywhere?
Yeah, it's a good point. I think I found some stuff. So this is here we are. Might take a second to what it means to be an Andersonite. What is that Super Lutheran? You're gonna love this. Actually, you're gonna hate this one, but
It'll be a mixture of both.
It'll be a mixture of both, indeed.
The biggest hypocritical flatterer. He preached a sermon called "Why I'm an Andersonite," which is a stupid sermon. Why would anyone pronounce themselves to be an Andersonite?
Pastor Anderson still did love you, and he still cared for you.
Holy shit, he's even trying to look like him.
Yeah, dude, you have to hear what he's saying, though, John. This is unbelievable.
Sorry.
No. Oh, that's another thing, John. They all try to look like each other.
Love you, and he still cared for you, and he still visited you in your affliction and suffered with you so that you could be saved.
He says Pastor Steven Anderson did that. Yeah.
Oh. All right. Well, can we bring a cross over to Faithful Word Baptist Church and make it official?
We're gonna crucify Steven Anderson. All right, so here, I think this might be the...
I'm not stepping down. I'm not sorry. I'm not repentant because I'm not guilty.
You hear that, Super Lutheran? I'm not repentant because I'm not guilty.
Never even been accused of rape.
Yeah.
Mm.
You think this is my first go around? I haven't had sex with anybody but my wife, I swear. I don't care what 55 women who have said that they've been locked up in my basement before have said.
Go ahead, bud.
I'm not repentant because I'm not guilty. You just betrayed your own theology, homie. Like everybody sins every single day, all the freaking time. You should be constantly repentant. You should wake up every day and drown your sins in your baptism, remembering that you are a sinner with some clay-ass feet.
Well, listen, Super Lutheran, he's just trying to exercise humility, honestly.
Most humblest man in the world.
Yeah. Nobody's humbler than him.
Super Lutheran's like, he should have got up behind the pulpit and repented. He's like, I'm not repenting because I'm not guilty. He said, I beat my kids and wife with an electrical cord. Leave anal beads around the house. Who cares?
I'll beat him with the anal bead.
Yeah. What you said, John, last week, you were like, yeah, you know what? He's a merciful father. To count their blessings that they weren't beaten with the part that plugs in.
Yeah.
Pastor Anderson's the Pope. Pastor Anderson. Pastor Anderson's not the Pope.
Pastor Anderson.
Especially Pastor Anderson's in the unity factor.
Pastor Anderson.
It's not because I'm scared of Pastor Anderson seeing something I preached.
Pastor Anderson.
And correct everything I'm doing, not even with the Bible, but with Pastor Anderson. That's annoying.
Pastor Anderson.
Pretty sure they're coming to our church to find out anything I do different than Pastor Anderson so they can expose me to him. Pastor Anderson this, Pastor Anderson that, Pastor Anderson.
Pastor Anderson.
There have been people that have come through here that have wanted him to be our Pope.
That plenty of others sure do.
Pastor Anderson.
That I believe the majority of teaching Pastor Anderson teaches. Look to him for leadership.
This guy, he tells her his name's like Manly Perry. It's like John Fitzgerald.
John Fitzgerald.
Or something like that.
Oh, he joined the NAFB because he understood it meant he could discipline his wife.
Is this the such humble, much lowly? Man, I want to find, I got to find that.
Before winning about 200,000 people to the Lord.
Here's another way to stay humble. If you want to be a pastor, instead of taking over a church, start a church.
I'm providing myself a wonderful gift and bestowment unto this church.
Here's another way to...
I'm providing myself a wonderful gift and bestowing unto this church. Woo!
To stay humble.
They can go do whatever I want.
There's another way to stay humble.
They can go do whatever I want.
Well, I'm the man of God around here. Well, I'm the one that's holy.
There's another way to stay humble.
The Spirit of the Lord is going to come upon me.
Instead of taking over a church, start a church.
I have total confidence in Jonathan Shelley.
Brother Romero is going to accomplish great things. I have great faith in him. I believe that he will be a great man of God.
All these little things, he's just not really noticing. Great church member at Faithful Word. I think he preaches great sermons.
Jesus Christ is at the top and God the Father's below, or they're the same person.
He's just not really
What?
noticing.
He's like, oh, he preaches a great sermon.
The top and God the Father's below, or they're the same person.
He's just not really.
Isn't that what is that? It's mode? No, not
that.
Unitary.
Yeah, that's Unitarianism, modalism. If you claim they're all the same person, just wearing different hats.
You see,
in the
dude?
Trinity.
See, there's me. I'm like, yeah, I don't know shit. I was gonna say modalism.
I totally knew that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Totally.
you hit the nail on the head, Larry.
Noticing.
Here's another way to stay humble.
And unfortunately, when you realize someone's not stupid, they're wicked.
Here's another way to stay humble.
When you realize someone's not stupid, they're wicked. That's edited, but but it's hilarious. This might be
I
the.
live by that code.
Is this it?
I got to work on that.
Pastor Steven Anderson, he literally created the new IFB.
You know, and so this guy...
Oh, dang. Here nor there. I'm not going to be able to find it, it looks like, guys. He's the greatest man alive. So I don't want to sit here and just be like, hey, everyone, let's just watch these videos here about this dummy.
That was a pretty amazing edit, though.
Yeah. Why did so many of these like fundy churches, they have like logos that are like, here's a Bible with like a sword or a shield?
It's because they're
And, like,
serious.
Yeah, serious in like a Power Rangers way. Or like I'm watching old like Posse Comitatus stuff from the 80s.
Well, that's what they want you to know, that they're serious about their faith and they're willing to kill and beat the fuck out of their wives and children. It's the violence. They like, hey, the new graphic behind him when he's preaching his sermons will just be like a Bible with like a scourge on top of it, an electrical cord.
That is like the perfect new like fundy church logo. Bible, an electrical cable, and some brewer's yeast.
Yeah, I'm powered by the Lord, right? These guys, Adobe stock. Is this it? No, that's not it. Sorry, not. Rebukes his spiritual children.
How many people here were personally won to Christ by Pastor Steven Anderson.
How does that even work?
That if you think I'm unqualified, that means... How many people here were personally won to Christ by Pastor Steven Anderson?
How does that even work?
That if you think I'm unqualified, that means that I was already unqualified before you even got saved listening to my preaching.
Isn't one person planting and another person...
And it could also be said that Anderson wasn't the one that saved him. You're not saved by Anderson's preaching.
Look, we can get a crossover to Faithful Word Baptist Church in Tempe, Arizona. We can make this happen if he wants to like put his money where his mouth is.
Like I don't need to talk to you about this. So what goes on behind the bedroom of my house, or the bedroom of my house, the door of my bedroom?
By the way, for whatever like NIFB guy that's inevitably going to listen to this, it's called a joke. Don't say they're threatening him with crucifixion.
Yeah. Oh yeah, because you said that. Oh, why don't we just get the cross and make this official? Oh, a guy here says in the chat, I have to answer this quick. He's like, "Are these just audio?" The last couple ones that we were listening to, we'll just say yes, those ones were, but no, not all of them. But what were you saying? I interrupted you for that. Someone asked a question.
No, just somebody's going to claim that this is all threatening language. And it's like, dude, no.
Well, I mean,
get a sense of humor, you know?
Well, no, they definitely will, because this is the same guy that's like, hey, if Steven Anderson goes down, Jonathan Shelley said that. He's like, Jonathan Shelley, who, by the way, John Anderson got on recording, like admitting that he knew about all this stuff before it came out. And Jonathan Shelley gets caught in a recording in a private church meeting saying that Anderson needs to step down. And then the next sermon he preaches is saying, like, no, man, if Anderson goes down, we're next.
Oh, so he's flip-flopping, huh?
Flip-flopping, just lying about stuff. And then same with, like, Bruce Mejia and Roger Jimenez and all that stuff. But yeah, it's wild, dude. And then that, you heard, like, in the Miriam interview where she said about her mom, like, wanting to spit in her face and stuff.
Yeah.
That's, like, some, like, straight-up, like, psycho shit. And, like, the older brother say, like, Isaac Anderson saying, he's like, yeah, my dad was, they all, like, made it sound like the dad, that Steven Anderson is, like, wasn't mad all the time, and he was actually, like, cool to be around sometimes. But, like, when he would get pissed, he would, like, freak out and, like, break shit in the house. But, like, he's like, yeah, my mom was just, like, pissed off all the time, like, screaming from sun up to sundown. And, like, the cold showers and, like, holding your 2 or 3 year old child, like, on your knee as you spray them in the face with ice cold water is just, like, that's psycho stuff. And then you mentioned the brewer's yeast, water, and oats.
Yeah, she would say, you're not missing a meal. You're not missing a meal, but, like, come on.
Who's going to eat that? Who wants to eat that? And then it's like, if you throw up, you better swallow that. Better not throw that up or you're going to eat it. Like, dude, I read stuff like that in a book called Cellar of Horror by Ken Inglade, and it was about Gary Heidnik. And that guy, do you know what he did? He kidnapped retarded women and killed them in his basement.
Like Kurt Cobain.
Well, no, Kurt Cobain. Kurt Cobain snuck over.
You know he molested a retarded woman, right?
Yeah, we covered it on the show. We listened to that animated. Yeah. You were there, John.
Yeah, I was there.
You showed me the video. Like,
I forgot. Yeah.
So, like, the thing is if they really thought all this was biblical, they should have been open about it.
Yeah, hell yeah. If he was preaching sermons about corporal punishment like 2 years ago, where he was like, hell yeah, I beat that. Listen, my kids started crying. They were like 2 or 3 years old. I'd tell my wife I'd be working at the phone company, and my wife would take them upstairs and dunk their heads under the ice cold water in the bathtub.
Yeah, like, if you really thought this was biblical, then this wouldn't come as this big surprise, this all-at-once moment. If you thought that, you would have been proud to talk about it. But I guarantee you There is no Steven Anderson sermon about like, God bless my wife for feeding our kids gruel with brewer's yeast in it so that they almost throw up, but then we tell them that if they throw up, they got to eat it again. Thank God for electrical cables, because I didn't know where to find a scourge.
And it's like Susanna, are you like thinking your kids are like dogs? Doesn't it say that in the Bible, that as a dog returneth to his vomit? Forget the rest of it. What is it? Man like returneth to his sinful ways or something like that.
Mm-hmm. And that's just the weird thing about it is they're acting like this is this big moment of betrayal because all their behavior was justified. Well, if you really thought that, where was this? And why is it now all at once? And the NIFB, if they all agree in lockstep with their Lord and Savior, Steven Anderson, then they should all be saying the same damn thing. But apparently, they were in the dark too on some level, with the exception of this Shelley guy who he can't make up his mind as to whether or not Steven Anderson should step down. So, yeah, screw it.
Yeah.
Sorry, if you're a fundy listening to this, I'm sorry, dude.
Yeah. Well, and then there's like questions about his ordination and stuff too that I didn't even know about. Apparently, like the person who he was ordained by, came out and said like that never happened. He's like I prayed over him, but that was it. And Steven Anderson's like, I was sent out to like have a church, to, like build a church.
That's the funniest thing ever now. These fundy pastors arguing about their apostolic succession, like Roman Catholics.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's actually hilarious. It's a good point too, and they hate Catholics so much.
Like if you're a legit fundy, you should say, I don't care. You all chose me to be your pastor. You accept me as your Bible teacher because I teach the Bible, and that's between God and me, whether or not I'm a pastor. And here we are preaching, so I must be doing something right. Just own it.
Yeah, because if
You
you're
say,
like,
that guy, I'm not ordained. Who cares?
well, because it also says too that if you're a pastor, like preacher, like you're going to be judged like more harshly. So like you're putting yourself up for that. But yeah, we have this one other story. Hey, we'll do this super quick. Trump story. You guys ready? Lightning round. So Donald Trump opened up, was at a rally last week, and he started off by talking about Arnold Palmer's genitals.
Oh yeah.
Not even kidding. Did you guys want to hear the quote?
Well, let's hear it.
All right. So the rally was in Pennsylvania. This is great. Come on, fucking load up for me, please. Okay, yeah, he kicks off talking about his dick. He says, Arnold Palmer was all man, and I say that in all due respect to women. This is a guy that was all men. When he took to the showers with the pros, they came out of it, they said, oh my God, that's unbelievable. I had to he said,
a hog on that man.
He said, I had to say, we have women that are highly sophisticated here, but they used to look at Arnold as a man. It's like, dude, yeah, that's the whole story. I just thought that was really funny. He's like, hey, isn't that something? He had a huge dick.
Listen, you don't get a drink named after you unless you're a legend in the locker room, brother.
Legend in the locker room. Instead of Legends of the Fall.
When I saw it, I got a funny feeling. Like
incredible.
When I was 11 years old and I climbed my favorite tree for the first time. For the first time, everybody.
It was tremendous.
So true.
My belly began to tickle like on a roller coaster.
Well, here we have this. This is the final story, but we're going to go through this entire article because it's unbelievable. I read this last week, and I was stunned. I'll pull this up on the page here for you guys because there's a video that we're going to watch that goes along with it. It's in the article, and we'll put it up here on the thing so that the folks can see it. But listen, explicit lesbian sex scenes at the opera leave 18 audience members requiring medical treatment. Graphic show features naked nuns on roller skates and Christ having his loincloth whipped off. And you see here, this looks like Vern Troyer being hung upside down by a robot or something. But we'll start off here with the trailer, then we'll get your guys' take on this. Disgusting or a triumph? Unbelievable. So, on that trailer, you guys, did you guys see that?
Good Lord, man. Yeah.
What do you think, John?
It's par for the course anymore, man. Everything's so satanic. I mean, not to totally derail, but this is like, have you heard of this new movie, The Conclave?
No.
No, so there's a new movie called The Conclave. It's about Catholics having to elect a new bishop, and long story short, it turns out that the bishop they elect is a tranny, and they all knew it, and they were covering it up, and like just everything that's coming out now are these weird, satanic, sacrilegious things. It's just nauseating, honestly.
What were you going to say on it, Lutheran? Super
Well,
Lutheran?
first off, the trailer you showed me is very German. This is very, like, only some weirdo German group could do it. And I read this article when you sent me it. This is from an opera that was in Weimar, Germany. This is literal Weimar shit.
I looked it up too. The guy, from what I couldn't find anything in the early life to indicate he was Jewish. Apparently, this is actually it's just a German guy.
Listen,
It is a German guy that's a coomer. This is the male feminist thing of the early 20th century.
It's just a different culture, guys. It might be weird to you, but that's just your American predisposition, right?
Yeah.
Kind of like getting naked at a child's park and then going for a jog.
Yeah, well, hey, sounds like someone. Hey, if you criticize men who get naked at children's parks, then that's just because you support Israel.
Yeah, Zionist.
Yeah. But no, this is disgusting. So here's the deal. Paul Hindemith is the guy's name. This is the dude that did the opera in 1921. It's called Sancta Susanna. Does that just mean Holy Susanna?
Or Saint Susanna.
Susanna. It's a song.
Try again. So it's Saint Susanna. Saint Susanna by composer Paul Hindemith caused a scandal back in 1921 with outraged critics labeling the one-act opera, which tells the story of a suppressed nun discovering her sexuality, too blasphemous to be shown. Now, can you imagine why, like, outraged critics? First, why would somebody be outraged about that? Like, why would a Christian be outraged about this thing being shown? You know what I mean? Can you imagine? Blasphemous? It has a guy, it's actually a woman too, plays Jesus in this opera.
Yeah. Boy, really on the nose, isn't it?
Yeah. And it says here, its premiere at the Stuttgart Opera was canceled, but more than 100 years later, it has now been staged in the city for the first time. So, I mean, they even had the sense in fucking Weimar, Germany to cancel this.
That's saying when you're too much for Weimar, that's the bottom of the barrel. That's rock bottom.
Yeah, actually, that is actually really nuts because you hear about all these insane stories. And they couldn't pull this off then, but now they staged it for the first time in the city, with the shock factor amped up to dizzying new heights in what its creators call a radical vision of the Holy Mass. Talk about maybe more evil vision of the Holy Mass. It's not even the Holy Mass. This is a bunch of freaks and weirdos, degenerates, roller skating. First of all, we don't like people who roller skate. Disgusting. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, rollerblading.
Yeah. People are sick in the head. But these are like naked, fat freaks. And it's like some weird lesbian opera. There's nothing about like Holy Mass whatsoever. Like, this is like shitting in your hand and like going uptown to like tell someone about how you had a great time putting gas in your car this morning. Do you know what I mean? Well, two totally different things.
It's that, and like, of course they put this opera on to like offend Christians who aren't going to watch it. They're just going to hear about it and go, "Oh, well, that's bad," and that's it.
I ain't going to watch it either.
It's like smearing yourself in poop and just running around in the middle of Walmart going, "Hey, Walmart people, this is what I think about you," and they just kind of like go away. And you're like, "Yeah, I showed them."
Yeah, it's like the I saw. It reminds me of like a really hilarious meme I saw during like the Black Lives Matter stuff, where people were like, "Yeah, I'm wearing all black at this Met Gala thing." Like celebrities would do this shit. They're like, "I'm wearing all black tonight to like speak out against, some obscure like retard thing, like black people being arrested for jaywalking while being high on crystal meth." And it's like, yeah, I'm here to protest the Vietnam War by like nutting in my grandmother's coffee or something, And it's like two things that are like just totally unrelated. But then it says, its provocative scenes left theatergoers reeling, with 18 suffering with nausea and shock, requiring assistance over the first two performances. In 3 cases, a doctor even had to be called. You know what, John? Sounds like a bunch of American patriots were here at this place.
Yeah, true patriot.
Medic, please. Extreme performance artist. What's this bitch fucking performing at the X Games or something? What is this? The sex games, more like it. Am I right? Florentina Holtzinger. We also like people. We don't like people who are named after shitty Italian dishes that are like green and stuff. It's disgusting. Who is behind the astonishing adaptation, which sees its all-female cast playing nuns who strip off their habits throughout the sensual, poetic, and wild show. The most bizarre scenes include an actress with dwarfism, dressed as the Pope, being raised up into the air and spun around by a robotic arm, while another performs Eminem songs dressed as Jesus.
Oh, just kill me. Just kill me.
Dude, that's
somebody with their silly German accent trying to sound like the worst rapper of his generation.
Yeah, while portraying him, like trying to portray himself as like the sinless man. Like, they're like, "Oh yeah, it's like, oh hey, I'm Jesus, right? I'm Slim Shady, as I'm the real Shady. I want to."
I'm whatever you say I am. And now look at my butt. Like,
hey, you know what else? How did Paul Hindemith in 1921 know about Eminem songs? Maybe he was talking to demonic entities, figures.
Oh, damn. Well, now he really is Jewish, huh? Now we just have to fess up and say, yep. Suspicions confirmed.
A female pope features in the performance. Yeah, it's also a dwarf. It's a disabled person. You ever seen the movie Freaks? Gooba Gaba, Gooba Gaba?
I would unironically rather them show the tits and blur out the weird midget pope.
Well, look at this. Do you see the naked people on roller skates? Look at their cool paintings and stuff here.
The kind of people who go to these things are literally just the worst fucking people.
Well, dude,
and they can't even take it.
Guys, we haven't even gotten to the most sick part yet. Super Lutheran, you know what's coming up. Bach meets metal. The Weather Girls meet Rachmaninoff. And naked nuns meet roller skates, is how the Stuttgart State Opera website summarizes the performance. The feminist mass sees the central character, a young nun called Susanna, discover her sexuality, eventually pulling down Christ's loincloth on the crucifix in the scandalous climax. At one point, the nude nun has sex with the icon. Oh, this is on stage, and this is all real. It's not staged. This is not a thing. They are actually, straight up having sex, because listen to this next part. This is disgusting. The performance has an age restriction of 18 and incorporates sex acts, painful stunts, real and fake blood, piercings, and the infliction of a wound on stage. Naked performers hang out of bells as clappers, with only their bare bottoms or heads visible, while others scale a rock wall in nothing but harnesses and clamber up ropes. In one scene, tattooed nude performers clamber over a table, drinking wine and singing, while another lifts a sword in the shape of a crucifix and pushes it down her throat. In one very irreligious exchange, an actress playing Jesus spanks a semi-naked woman of the cloth. And in a particularly disturbing scene, bodies are strung up to the wall to mimic Christ on a cross before vats of fake blood start pouring down over them. And this is this is sick here. Most shockingly of all, one critic detailed the moment an injury is inflicted on one of the actors live on stage. To illustrate the Eucharist, this is demonic as shit here. The body of Christ, a piece of skin is cut from a performer's side, which is then grilled to medium rare, according to a German newspaper.
Holy shit, dude.
Süddeutsche Zeitung is the name of the paper.
Cutting yourself open to own the Christians, huh?
Cutting a piece of your skin off, enough to grill.
And I would be willing to bet dollars to fucking donuts. Every one of the people involved in this play is severely mentally afflicted. I bet they're all on SSRIs. I bet they all struggle with weird depression and anxiety. These are afflicted
The silver lining? The silver lining here is none of them have kids. I guarantee to you, almost none of them have any children, and they're going to be gone within 20 years.
Well, think about this, too. It's not just a small piece of skin, because if you can grill it to medium rare, it means you have to have enough there to grill the outside, but leave it cool.
Leave the inside.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, dude, these people are disgusting, freak, degenerate weirdos who should be put in prison, right now.
Yeah, obviously these people, I wouldn't even call them sick in the head. This is the logical conclusion of liberalism.
Well, this is why... Oh, sorry, Super.
Go ahead. No, you first.
No, go ahead, I'm sorry.
It's just the problem is liberals can't get over the fact that they pushed Christianity out of the public square. So they're stuck in a broken record, doing the same things that they've always been doing, attacking Christianity, attacking the quote-unquote religious right, as though any of us really has any power right now. And they're always trying to offend the church, as though the church can still string them up or something like that and burn them at the stake. We can't. And you know that we can't, because you people are the one who, through the long march of institutions and all sorts of crap and killing a whole bunch of Christians in 2 world wars, you got what you wanted, and now the church is just completely minimized, right? But now they can't say that they're in charge. Because if they're in charge, if they say that, if they admit that to themselves, if they admit that they're the dominant cultural force, dominant governmental force, dominant force in everything, okay, now they have to take responsibility for why everything sucks ass right now. So what do? Instead of taking responsibility, they can't do that. And they know that it's getting really old hat to come out with cringy songs about how oh man, the church is so bad, guys. What do? Well, now they got to up the ante. because they've driven themselves insane with the inability to take responsibility for what they've done to their own societies, their cultures, their peoples, their races, everything. All right, this is the logical endpoint. Bulbasaur was right. He said this ends with cannibalism, and that's where it ends up, and, well, they're cooking human flesh to medium rare over there in Germany.
Well, actually, I'm glad you mentioned that, because Bulbasaur was right. He may have even been right before he said that. Have you ever heard of a man also from Germany named Arwen Meiwes? Meiwes?
Nope.
Okay, so this is a gentleman. A gentleman. He's not a gentleman. He met a guy on fucking Craigslist, and these sexual degenerates got turned on to the idea of one of them being killed and the other one eating him. So he met a guy on Craigslist, and the dude was like, I want you to kill me and eat me. And he did it. And yeah, he went to jail. It's a real thing. Look it up.
What was this?
Arwen Meiwes. Arwinmeiwes. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think this was in the 90s, maybe.
So he was an innovator ahead of his time.
Yeah, innovator in sexual violence, degeneracy and shit. So it says here, also, we'll finish this up. On the show's website, it warns attendees that the performance art is not fake but real. Not performance art, it's disgusting. In the case of sexual violence shown, the theater issues explicit trigger warning. Hey, John. Hey,
liberals. Trigger warning.
Okay? Trigger warning. Saying that some may be left in discomfort or even traumatized by the performance. The almost 3-hour show of smut, which has no break, proved too much for some attending its Stuttgart showings. They probably don't want you to have any break because they want it to smell like piss and shit in there as well, these disgusting freaks. And then they're like, listen, the people who were affected by this were sitting in the front row near the stage, and they should have known what they were letting themselves in for. Very bizarre. And then listen to this guy. Victor Schoner says, exploring boundaries and crossing them with pleasure has always been a central task of art. You know, I don't think that's true. Art used to be like the Mona Lisa or other things like that. I'm not real big into art. It's not really, I mean, it looks cool, but people sit there and like look at it and give critiques on it and shit, and they act like they're cool and super smart because they do that. But whatever, dog. You paint pictures that look cool. That's awesome. This isn't art. Art is like not this. What's that guy say? Like, define pornography. He's like, I know it when I see it. The Supreme Court Justice said that. Who was it that said that? Rehnquist?
Some of the people in chat are saying, like, these people need to be turned into fertilizer in Minecraft. And, sir, you are incorrect for saying that these people need to be forced to be nuns.
Dude.
If you're going to punish somebody like this for nonsense blasphemy like this, no, you need to be made to join a religious order where you will be forced to pray the hours. You will be put on Thorazine so you stop fighting and complaining. And you will be reading the Bible and praying a lot. Here, I'll be right back, guys.
Yeah, no worries. Responding to questions over whether nudity on stage is necessary, the State Opera website says, of course. Theater and opera merely imitate reality. When people love, suffer, and die on the opera stage, John. Yes. Dude. Okay, listen. So the question, is nudity necessary on stage? The state, dude, listen, this is unhinged. The State Opera says, of course, this is insane. They're saying nudity is necessary. And nudity is necessary because theater and opera merely imitate reality. And in reality, that is when people love, suffer, and die on the opera stage, it is all just an act. John, we're going to be killing on stage.
Yeah.
In justifying nudity on stage, they're saying, hey, you know what? Yeah, there's nudity on stage because in real life, life imitates art, art imitates life, whatever the fuck, and people are naked in life, having sex. All that shit's going on here. They're grilling each other's body parts. There's no cannibalism happening in life, but they also suffer and die. So this is sick. We're going to have...
Well, yeah. And I actually, like, I agree, and I've actually always said this. People try to say, like, oh, it's just art. Like, no, these people who put out sick, fucked up, demented art like this is who they are, right? Same thing with, like, rappers and shit like that. People who put these kind of ideas out into the world, like, this is who they are. They don't go home and then they're, like, this benevolent person after they get off stage. These are sick, fucked up people.
That's a great idea, John. Can we put them all just like on a colony with all the drill rappers?
That would be amazing.
Like,
But we have to have a 24-hour live feed.
King Von on the same island with the chicks that are cutting themselves and having like blasphemous sex with like crucifix dildos. Like, you people belong together because your mental state is roughly the same.
Real demon time.
Well, I got news for you, Super Lutheran. King Von is in hell. He won't be inhabiting any islands in the near future. He's dead.
I believe he faked his death.
There's literal pictures of his dead body were leaked by the medical examiner.
That's AI.
Yeah, not real.
I'll die on this hill. I think King Von is still alive. And if he's not, well, he's a part of every good little boy and girl on Christmas time.
He's the Elvis of our generation, folks.
He's hanging out with Bigfoot and Elvis right now in the UFOs.
Trying to see if there's any more gems here that we want to go over here. So, what is it? Yeah, okay, so they're talking about the person. Oh, wait, did you hear what I just said there about we're going to be getting killings on stage soon?
I just came back right as you were finishing it up. So you think people are just going to die?
Well, listen
on stage?
Dude, you got to hear, this is insane. Responding to questions over whether nudity on stage is necessary. The State Opera website says, of course, theater and opera merely imitate reality. When people love, suffer, and die on the opera stage, it is all just an act. So it's like, hey, so we're putting nudity up on stage because people get naked in real life? Like, are we just going to be doing all that on stage, everything that people do in real life? I mean, there's sex scenes in this.
So would they really honestly say, we're going to be not your problem anymore after this performance?
Yeah, it's like, oh, so you guys are never going to do any more like weird, stupid shit like this again? This is just like, we had to get this out. It's just, this expression just had to come out.
Yeah, it's possible. Like, people are willing to cut off pieces of their body and grill themselves to try to mock the Eucharist. It could be people are dying, and like, let's face it, now that in Canada they have that whole like legally assisted suicide thing. Maybe people will be given the option, like, do you want to die as part of a performance thing?
You tell someone that's about to go do an opera to break a leg, and they're like, I am. Tonight.
Cut it off.
In my part, I'm not going to have a leg tomorrow. To break, it's going to be gone. We're cutting it off and roasting it over a fire. Roasting it over the ashes of the building we rented for the night that we're going to burn down as artistic expression. So then it says, what's it here? Things have been different for decades in performance art. Here, the person performing does not embody a character. Here, the body itself is the medium. And in Florentina Holdsinger's work in particular, natural nudity is a very central means of expression. Yeah, fucking bullshit. It's because these people are, as a Ditch Doctor points out in the chat, and it's a good point, people who do nudity or other cringe are just untalented. Yeah, these people have to do naked scenes because they have no talent and nobody would pay attention to them otherwise. You know what I'm saying?
I disagree. I think that is part of the motivation for some of these women. I think they are deeply sexually dissatisfied, and this is them trying to do something with their libido because they're given permission. These women don't have husbands.
Dude,
they're not getting laid.
They're definitely sick, because if this is turning them on, yikes.
Like, well, that's the problem, right? You get these women who are horribly atomized, and they go to university, get their head filled with nonsense. And like, do you remember this happened this week? A bunch of women like protested a place Donald Trump was holding a rally, and they all got naked. So like, to stick it to you, Donald Trump, I'm going to show you my boobies. In fact, all of us are going to show you our naked bodies that we're going to say are so attractive. Like, lady,
dude,
you're asking him for some.
This guy, they're like, we're gonna like get naked. We're gonna show him by like getting naked in front of a person that they call a rapist, who has actually been found liable for sexually assaulting a woman in like the 80s. like
you want to tell me that, like, look, if a woman gets naked in front of me, just buck naked, she's telling me that she wants me to ogle her naked body. She wants to do something intimate with me. And when you get all these crazy women here for this insane psychotic performance art, like, they've got no dignity left, and they must be incredibly desperate. Feminism made them repulsive to men, except for feminist men, and nobody wants feminist men, not even feminist women.
Hey, nobody wants feminist women? We talked to a guy earlier about that. What do you have to say about that?
And just to be clear, I've never been accused of raping anyone.
Sorry. But sorry, I just had to, because he was talking about feminist women.
Well, ironically, feminist women do now love Eminem.
Feminist women love Eminem. Chicka, 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 slim, shady, say. I'm sick of him. Look at him walking around, grabbing his. Yeah, you know what I'm saying, John?
They are the trailer park girls denied their trailer park to go around the outside.
Yeah, they're real. Or you know what else they could be? Women tied up and locked in the trunk of my car as I drive off a bridge.
So true.
Yeah. Because I wrote my favorite rapper. He never wrote me back. But yeah, I mean, let me check the time here. Oh, these guys, they've gotten an hour and 45 minutes. I lied to you guys. I said it'd be an hour. I don't think there's anything else here. Yeah, this is just a horseshit thing. They talk about, themes include female sexual, physical, and social oppression, and a dissecting of Catholicism and organized religion through
Yawn.
Hey, and look at this guy, pulled straight out of the painting of Killing the Simon of Trent. See what I'm saying? Like, for real, don't he look like one of them dudes in the painting of Killing the Simon of Trent?
Yeah, he does. He will go to a monastery. All these women need to go to a monastery very far away from men and from any opportunity to express themselves these ways. Him too.
We're going to build one. We're going to build a monastery for these women on the bottom of the Pacific Ocean. I'm kidding. We're not going to do that. We don't have the technology or the money. And I'm busy. But all this being said, guys, we're sickened. It hasn't been a typical last two shows. Talked about some heavy topics. We had Super Lutheran on. Is there anything that you would like to say to the people before we sign off here?
If you're interested in more of little old me, you can find the Godcast on Americana.org and ExodusAmericanus.com. And if you go to t.me/verylutheran, I run the Very Lutheran Project, where we provide a metric butt ton of content for people, including house church resources, and we go through a lot of the chunky stuff, like actually sitting down and reading stuff like the Dead Sea Scrolls, the Gnostic texts, and make sure that nobody can pull the wool over your eyes anymore on what this stuff was all about.
Dude, my bad. I was muted. Fuck. I have this audio mixer here. My thing was muted. But hey, folks, yes, check out the Godcast on Americana.org. And John, do you have anything to say to these people before we sign off?
No, man, just take care of yourselves and take care of each other. God bless y'all. Go to church.
You know what? That sounds like something that, no, never mind. Never mind. But
a Zionist would say.
Dude, I couldn't believe it when I heard that. I listened to it and it's like, they like called you pro-Israel. It was so fun. I'm like, dude, John is not pro-Israel. Yeah, but it's like
God's chosen people.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna hop off here, folks. Thank you guys. Thanks for coming on here, Super Lutheran and John.
Thank you for having me on,
talking with you.
Yeah, I'll have you back on again sometime.
Absolutely.
Later, guys.
See yous.
Absolutely.
All right, folks. I hope you enjoyed that. And I think I missed something here. Yeah, Billy for $5 said, "You cannot protect me from niggers." You heard it here first, folks. No protection. You're going down. And then what's this? Oh, Assmaster. If Aide from The Sopranos was a robot, would she be called Adriana Laservo? I think she would. That's actually a fucking really solid joke, honestly. Adriana, dude, that reminds me of the, why don't you go on down to the fucking Mike Nolan show where he's like, yeah, go down to the fucking local RSL, or wait, was it Servo? I don't know. Sounds like some like dumbass Australian thing. Speaking of that, hey, is fucking, hold on, let me stop the recording. Or, I'll play an outro and I'll start up another stream here in a few minutes. Maybe we'll watch some Randbot and laugh at him. But yeah, let me find a song here to play on the way out. Thank you guys for hanging around for the evening. And, yeah, this is going to be up. It'll be up on my YouTube channel. Watch it there. I'm trying to move over there. I don't want to hang out over on Odyssey anymore. Odyssey fucking sucks. A lot. So I'm trying to get over there. Let's go over there and watch my fucking videos. I'm done posting them here. I'm going to be posting them over there from now on. The ones that I can. And I'm too lazy to edit them because I'm busy. But I'm on vacation this week, guys. So we're going to be doing, well, and by we, I mean me. I'm going to be doing other stuff. Going to be doing more stuff this week. So, all right, I'll see you guys later. In a couple minutes, I'll be back.
Full